A wealthy boy who never walked discovered a touching truth that changed his life forever. Ethan Callahan's life seemed picture-perfect. Living in a sprawling mansion in Ohio, he was enveloped by luxury sports cars, private tutors, and cutting-edge technology. People gazed at him with envy, whispering about his family's wealth. But the velvet-lined existence often felt like a prison. Confined to a wheelchair by a rare condition, Ethan couldn't join in the world outside his pristine home, a beautiful suburban neighborhood filled with laughter and play. The truth weighed heavier than his wheelchair. Every day, he felt the crushing expectations of his mother, determined to mold him into the embodiment of success, and his father, a tough retired military man, demanding resilience that felt impossible to summon. Underneath it all, Ethan was a specter ghosting through halls of opulence, longing for a hint of genuine connection. Each school day, he watched as classmates smiled and shared inside jokes, blurring the lines of friendship. They treated Ethan like a charity case, a project to be documented rather than a person to truly know. He drifted through life, invisible in his sea of wealth. But solace awaited him in the library. Here, surrounded by dusty tomes, he stumbled upon stories of real grit, local families struggling against poverty, single mothers juggling 2 jobs, children dreaming bright in dim circumstances. Each tale plucked at something deep within. Ethan discovered the power of their stories, and it opened doors he never thought possible. He found his heartbeat sink in the vibrant pulse of the community center that served those in need. There, his world expanded. He met mothers who would fight against everyday odds, children who sparkled with hope, each encounter lifting him closer to who he truly wanted to be. In their laughter and tears, he found a different kind of wealth, real, authentic, and powerful. As weeks passed, the community prepared for a gala meant to raise awareness and funds for the families Ethan had come to know and love. He wanted to speak, to share their resilience, to honor their stories. Yet, his family's voice echoed louder in his mind. Wealth and status dictated success, and they expected a speech showcasing their name and legacy. It was unbearable. The evening of the gala arrived, an extravagant affair swarming with shimmering dresses and polished suits. Ethan rolled to the edge of the stage, heart pounding. The strains of music faded into a hush. Memories of the mother from the community center flooded his thoughts, her hopes, her battles reflected in his heart. He felt invigorated by their struggles as he faced the microphone. Torn between 2 worlds, one of luxury and the other of authenticity, he trembled on a precipice. Just before stepping into the limelight, he took a deep breath, searching for clarity. He could honor his family and turn his back on the truth he had embraced, taking the easy route. Or break free and embrace the raw honesty he had discovered. Could he really do it? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The moment had come. The air crackled with anticipation. What would he choose? As the spotlight cast his shadow across the crowd, he knew it was time to unveil the truth. Would Ethan Callahan take a step toward his own authenticity or remain shackled to the gilded expectations? The answer loomed, powerful and compelling. Ethan took a deep breath, pushing through the fear that gripped his chest. The room felt like it was holding its breath along with him. Eyes were on him, some curious, some judging, others filled with expectation. All his life, people had looked at him with a mix of pity and admiration, but this time, he wanted them to see him as he truly was. He gripped the microphone. Instantly, a surge of courage flooded him. The laughter and struggles of the families he had grown to love started swirling in his mind like a whirlwind, overpowering the whispers of his parents' expectations. They were counting on him to be a reflection of their grandeur. But tonight, he wanted to shine a light on those forgotten stories. Good evening, his voice cracked, and he paused, looking out at the sea of faces. I'm Ethan Callahan. Shifting in his seat, he felt a familiar rush. I thought I was meant to stand here and talk about family legacies and wealth, but that feels hollow. The murmurs rippled through the crowd, some eyebrows raised in disbelief. He continued, I want to talk about the stories I've come to know. Families that fight every day, not for fame or fortune, but for dignity and hope. His heart raced as the words poured out. Memories of that mother and her resilience flowed through him, and he shared anecdote stories of small victories, of laughter amidst struggles. The audience began to lean forward, curiosity turning to connection. Ethan's vulnerability drew them in. I've met children who play in a park just down the street from here, he said, gesturing toward the large windows. They don't know what it's like to have a yacht or a private tutor. But what I see in them is strength. They have dreams that don't require a mansion to come true. Silence settled like a thick blanket. The atmosphere shifted, anticipation swirling like electricity. Ethan noticed his parents' faces, his mother's sharp scowl, his father's growing surprise. But for the first time, their opinions seemed to fade into the background. He couldn't stop now. They have laughter and light that fill the spaces where wealth is supposed to be, he continued. And that is real wealth. That's what I want to be a part of. I want to help those stories be told. Tears pricked the corners of his eyes as the overwhelming relief washed over him. He lifted his gaze across the room, taking in the stunned expression on some faces. He watched as a shift occurred. A warm glow began to replace their initial disbelief. And then he felt it. A spark of hope ignited among the audience. Some shook their heads in realization, a gentle smile creeping onto their lips. As his voice grew more confident, his anxiety slipped away. We can make a difference together. This community can rise if we recognize each other as humanity. I can't do this alone, and I don't wish to. For a brief moment, silence reigned before the crowd erupted into applause. It was tentative at first, then grew into a chorus of support. Ethan's heart swelled as he took in the scene, the sound tangible, lifting him higher in that moment. Suddenly, he spotted a woman in the front row, one of the mothers he had met at the community center. Her eyes sparkled with pride, and she nodded at him, her face radiating encouragement. But just as questions of what might come next danced in his head, he heard a familiar voice from the back of the room. Ethan. It was his father, a storm brewing in his voice. What are you doing? The applause dwindled, and Ethan faced his father, every ounce of determination flooding him. This was where the journey truly began. Would he hold his ground against the tides of expectation, or would he succumb once more? With the audience captivated yet holding their breaths, the next chapter of Ethan's life hung in the balance. What choice would he make when the support of the community pushed against his family's powerful demands? Could he remain true to himself in the face of so much opposition? The answer teetered on the edge, waiting to be revealed. Ethan's heart pounded, echoing the silence in the room. He could feel the weight of his father's gaze, thunderous and disapproving, pressing against him like a heavy fog. The applause had faded, leaving uncertainty hanging in the air like a thick mist. Ethan, his father's voice boomed again, cutting through the hushed murmurs. You've embarrassed yourself. This isn't what we agreed upon. The murmurs shifted, hushing into whispers that curled around his father's words. It felt like a spotlight shining directly onto his mistakes. Taking another breath, Ethan clenched his fists around the microphone. Every instinct told him to back down, to apologize, to morph back into the son his father yearned for. But then, he pictured those children in the park again, their faces lit with joy, free of expectations and grand ideals. They rallied him. No, Dad, he said, his voice steadying as he found strength within. I'm not embarrassed. I'm proud. This is the truth I've seen, and I cannot ignore it any longer. The room shifted like a pendulum, swinging back toward him. Some people nodded, leaning toward his words. He saw the community center mothers exchange knowing glances, their expressions a blend of pride and solidarity. His father's face darkened, disappointment etched into every line. You have responsibilities, Ethan. You can't play savior in a world you barely understand. Ethan felt the anger rising. He wanted to scream that he was more than just a product of wealth. But I do understand. The words burst from him. I've seen struggle. I've walked in their shoes even for just a moment. I've listened and felt their pain and their hope. He could feel the space between him and his father widening with every confession. With every word, he took another step away from the mold that had shaped him for so long. Enough. His father's tone was harsh, but all Ethan could focus on was the glimmer of courage filling the room. He saw a few of the other guests exchanging looks, some distaste, but others beginning to stir. Ethan swallowed the lump in his throat, shifting his attention back to the audience. This isn't about wealth. This isn't about what we have or don't have, Ethan said, face blazing with conviction. It's about choosing to make a difference, however small. It's about lifting each other up. He glanced at his mother, her eyes flashing with frustration. I can't keep pretending to be someone I'm not. What kind of life is that? If I went back to that, I'd be hollow inside. And there it was, the stir of something powerful bubbling in the crowd. A few voices joined in, echoing support. Falling into a rhythm he couldn't predict, Ethan felt their collective energy infuse him with courage. It felt like a wave of hope crashing against the shore of his fears. Let us start telling these stories together. Share them with your friends, your family. This community deserves to be seen, and I will not back down from that. A ripple of applause returned, louder, stronger. His father's expression contorted, surprise mingling with anger and frustration. Ethan finally met his father's eyes head-on, his own filled with determination and a slight tremble of defiance. I don't need your approval. I only need my own. The words hung between them, charged with finality. Then, the applause erupted again, this time with fervor. They believed in him. Ethan glanced at the faces around him, the woman from the community center, the kids he met, the families he'd fought for. The applause felt like a shield, pushing back against his father's disapproval. But just as he thought they were moving towards something great, a voice rose from the back, his father's assistant, John, stepping into the light. This isn't over, Ethan, John warned. Your father has plans for you, and he won't let this slide easily. With that, a chill raced through the room. Ethan's stomach twisted. Would this stand come at a cost he wasn't ready to face? The moment held a charged tension, a fragile balance between hope and fear. What would happen next? Would he be able to stand firm in the storm swirling around him, or would the stakes become too high to bear? Ethan felt a wave of uncertainty crash over him, as John's words loomed like a dark cloud over the auditorium. The applause still echoed, but its warmth felt distant now. He could sense the shift in the air, murmurs of concern amongst the crowd, eyes darting between him and the imposing figure of his father's assistant. John stepped forward, his face a mask of authority. Think about what you're doing, he pressed, his voice low and deliberate. Your father has sacrificed a lot for your future. You don't want to throw it all away for what? A moment of idealism? The mention of sacrifice pierced through Ethan, pain mixing with anger inside him. Did his father's plans truly equate to his happiness? I'm not throwing anything away, he said slowly, a tremor in his voice betraying his calm facade. I'm finally choosing to live for myself. From the back, a soft voice broke through the tension. It was the woman from the community center, the one whose fierce spirit had inspired him. You're not just living for yourself, Ethan. You're standing up for all of us. The crowd murmured in agreement, and their unity pulsed like a heartbeat, but John wasn't finished. You think this will make your father back down? He's not the kind of man who takes defeat lightly. He'll make sure you understand that. There was a ruthless glint in John's eyes, like he enjoyed wielding his boss's threats. Ethan's insides twisted again, but he found steadiness within. Maybe it's time for him to understand that love doesn't come with strings attached. Maybe it's time for him to see things differently, he replied, his voice gaining strength. His father stood frozen, the frown deepening like thunderclouds before a storm. Ethan's heart raced as his father's gaze shifted from him to the crowd. What next? Would his father roar back? Silence stretched uncomfortably, but Ethan couldn't look away. This was a pivotal moment, perhaps the first of many. Are you willing to test that theory? John challenged, stepping even closer, the tension between them nearly suffocating. You may think you're brave now, but what happens when he pulls the plug on your little crusade? His question hung in the air, sharp. Ethan felt eyes darting toward him, awaiting his answer. Could he give up everything he'd built? Was he still strong enough to fight if it came at a cost? I'm not backing down, Ethan stated, feeling the words rise like a tide of hope. I'll find a way to push through even if it means losing everything. Those small moments, the joy of the kids, the connections he'd made him feel alive in a way he'd never felt before. It was worth the risk. The whispers grew louder, voices rising in a flurry of support. People around him stood taller, encouragement lighting the room. Ethan noticed the glint of admiration from his mother, who had stepped closer, silent acknowledgement on her face. John's expression flickered, surprise mingled with frustration. You truly believe you can take him on? You think the world will support you? You're but a boy in a man's world. Ethan took a deep breath, firm and unwavering. Then let them see what a boy can do. A thunderous applause erupted, drowning out the uncertainty. Ethan's heartbeat thrummed in rhythm with the claps, each one igniting the space like fireworks. But in the midst of the cheers, he couldn't shake the feeling of unease that lingered. He hesitated, glancing at his father. The lines on his face had turned dark, almost menacing. But was this fight just beginning? What if he could truly inspire change? What if standing up was just the first step, and the battle that lay ahead would test his resolve beyond anything he'd imagined? Suddenly, the auditorium doors swung open and in walked someone unexpected, a familiar figure from his childhood, someone he never thought would cross paths with him again. Ethan's breath hitched, tension snapping like a taut string. This person had the potential to change everything. What did they want? Would they help him or complicate his life even further? The figure that stepped into the auditorium was a whirlwind of memories. Gabriel. Ethan's childhood friend, the boy who had always known how to make him laugh, even during the toughest times. Gabriel bore a confident smile, but the intensity in his eyes showed he was here for more than just nostalgia. Monsieur Ethan. He called out, his accent thick with that playful charm from days long gone. The room turned, curiosity etched across faces as people recognized who it was. Murmurs of surprise flowed through the crowd, joy dancing in the air. Ethan felt warmth spread in his chest, but uncertainty crept in like a shadow. Why had Gabriel returned now? He looked different, more mature, a hint of a businessman's edge, but those twinkling blue eyes were still the same. As Gabriel approached, the room hushed. He made his way past the crowd, offering polite nods, a quick smile here and there, but his focus remained on Ethan. What are you doing here? Ethan managed, his voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions. Could this be a distraction? Would Gabriel try to persuade him to abandon his mission? I heard your speech, Gabriel replied, pulling Ethan aside to share a more intimate moment. I've been following your journey. You've grown into a man I'm proud of. There was admiration in his expression that made Ethan's heart swell. But Gabriel, Ethan paused, grappling with the questions racing through his mind. Why now? Why after all these years? Gabriel glanced back at the crowd, his eyes narrowing as he scoured the sea of faces. Because, Ethan, I didn't just come to reminisce. I want to help you. I've seen the power you have. You're already inspiring so many. But I also know the world you're up against. His voice trailed off, a hint of urgency surfacing. What do you mean? Ethan felt a sudden shift, a knot tightening in his stomach. I work with a group that believes in social reform, Gabriel explained, leaning in closer. His voice dropped to a near whisper. We've raised enough funds to support grassroots movements, and I want you to be a part of it. You could have the resources and the backing to make your dreams a reality. A rush of hope surged through Ethan. This was what he needed. Proper support, a way to amplify his voice, but doubt quickly followed. Why would they need him? Why me? You're not just anything. You're the spark. Gabriel's intensity was palpable, and it lit a fire deep within Ethan. People want to follow someone they believe in. You've already started this journey. Now let us take it to the next level. Ethan's mind raced with possibilities. What if this was his chance to truly make a difference? To not only stand up against his father's empire but to build something new, to inspire others on a larger scale? But was he ready? The echoes of John's words still haunted him. Silence draped across the auditorium like a heavy cloak, everyone awaiting Ethan's response. Their support, palpable in the air, seemed to unveil his fears and hopes all at once. I don't know if I can, he finally said, a whisper strained with doubt. Then let us worry about that, Gabriel pressed. You've got this. Together, we can create change. Ethan looked around, taking in the supportive faces, including his mother's determined gaze urging him onward. He felt the weight of their expectations, along with the burgeoning weight of responsibility on his shoulders, but just as a flicker of courage ignited, John's figure suddenly surged forward, eyes cold and jaw set tight. This is nonsense, Ethan. You think you can just walk away? You think you can challenge everything I've worked for? The tension thickened, the auditorium electric as Ethan turned defensively towards John, heart racing, spirit reigniting with rebellion. He had an opportunity now, but it would come at a price. Maybe it's time I did. He shot back, his voice clear, a newfound conviction rising in him. What would come next? Could this standoff lead to the change he craved, or would it push him toward the brink of everything he had feared? The future lay uncertain, but in that moment, he would no longer back down. And there it was, a choice looming ahead. Would he embrace this chance to redefine everything, or would fear cage him once more? The crowd held its breath, waiting for the answers that entwined Ethan's fate. The silence in the auditorium grew thicker, vibrating with the tension between Ethan and John. Everyone held their breath, caught between curiosity and anxiety. Ethan's heart pounded against his ribs, each beat pushing him closer to a decision. The weight of his father's legacy teetered on the edge of his tongue, desperate to be voiced but restrained by years of conditioning. John opened his mouth to speak again, but Gabriel stepped forward, stepping into the space like a shield. This isn't just about you, John, he said firmly, eyes locked onto his former mentor. It's about the people you've kept quiet for too long. Ethan felt that spark ignite again. It was as if Gabriel had flipped a switch inside him, urging his courage to surface. You can't keep ruling by fear. People want hope, John. They deserve better. The crowd stirred, their murmurs swelling into a current of support. They were with him, that much was clear. Each encouraging nod fed into the courage building in Ethan's chest. Seeing the admiration on their faces, he felt a strength welling up, a sense that maybe this was his moment to finally step into his own light. John's expression shifted. The facade of confidence cracked just a bit, revealing a glimpse of frustration. And what makes you think they want you? You think a kid can challenge history? Ethan's resolve hardened. I'm not that kid anymore. I've learned. I'm ready to be the change instead of just watching it happen. Gabriel's smile was encouraging, the kind that made Ethan feel like he could conquer the world. But John sneered, crossing his arms defiantly. You're just a mouse trying to roar. You think you can take on my empire? You have no idea what it costs. Ethan felt the butterflies in his stomach turn into a wildfire, the adrenaline pumping as he realized it wasn't just about him. It was about the countless voices drowned in John's shadow. Maybe it's time those voices were heard, Ethan shot back. Maybe it's worth it to finally stand up." The audience erupted, applause breaking out like thunder. A wave of excitement surged through Ethan, fueling him as he stood taller, the fire in him roaring brighter. With the crowd rallying behind him, he turned back to John, ready for whatever was coming next. "You can try to silence me, but I won't back down. Not anymore. Boy, you have no idea. You might win this little moment, but what about when your final card is played?" John's voice dripped with mockery, but underneath, there was a flicker of concern. The stakes were rising. Gabriel stepped closer, feigning nonchalance, but Ethan could see the tension in his posture. "Just know this, John. Change is inevitable. Whether you accept it or not is up to you." "What do you mean?" John barked, stepping closer, the tension crackling like a lightning storm. Ethan swallowed back any remaining doubts. "You may have always won before, but this time, we're fighting back. I'm not going to let you dictate my future, or anyone else's." The energy in the room shifted again, reverberating with a sense of empowerment and sheer will. But even as reality sank in, the uncertainty loomed. Was he really ready to face the man who had dictated so much of his life? As Ethan glanced back at the crowd, he caught his mother's supportive gaze, and it steeled his resolve. This was bigger than him. It was about changing the narrative, about standing for what was right. But before he could fully relish the power of his declaration, a new figure at the back of the room caught his eye. A tall woman in a sharp suit, her expression unreadable. She watched intently, her presence like an anchor. Who was she, and what role would she play in this unfolding drama? A sense of intrigue mixed with anxiety washed over him. With his heart racing, Ethan turned to face the new challenge just as he realized that this was only the beginning. What further revelations awaited him on this unpredictable journey? As the applause echoed through the auditorium, Ethan stood before John, feeling a blend of fear and exhilaration. The crowd's cheers washed over him, infusing him with a bravery he hadn't realized he possessed. But there was also a weight pressing down on him, an understanding that this was just the start, not the climax. The woman in the sharp suit remained steady at the back, watching with a knowingness that unnerved him. Her gaze was intense, and for a moment, he pondered her connection to this moment. Was she here to support him, or was she tied to John's world, a formidable ally or a hidden enemy? The thought darted through his mind, but he pushed it aside. There was no time for distractions. John, refusing to back down, took a step closer, his eyes flashing with a mix of anger and something else deeper. "You think this will change anything? That these people will follow you because you've roared into the spotlight?" Ethan didn't flinch. "I think they deserve a voice, John. And now they have one." He felt Gabriel's presence beside him, reinforcing his strength like a silent guardian. The crowd was with him, a sea of hopeful faces that reflected the shift in the room's energy. John's expression faltered slightly, revealing the cracks in his facade, as if the facade of the powerful man he always portrayed was beginning to crumble. "You've made a fool of yourself today," he sneered. "Your little rebellion will only lead to chaos, and chaos is something I can control." "Control?" Ethan echoed, a fire igniting in his belly. "That's what this has always been about for you, isn't it? Using fear to keep everyone in line. But what happens when they stop being afraid?" A murmur of agreement rippled through the audience, and for the first time, doubt flickered in John's eyes. The tension hung thick in the air, ready to snap, when a slow clap broke through the stillness. Eyes turned to the woman in the sharp suit. She stepped forward, her confidence palpable. "Bravo, Ethan. Very eloquent," she said, her voice steady but warm. "But let me introduce myself. I'm Amelia Hayes. I work in public policy." And she paused, scanning the crowd with piercing eyes. "I believe you have a chance to reshape this community. But you'll need allies. And I can help with that." Ethan felt a rush of hope. "Allies?" he asked, intrigued. Amelia nodded, her tone shifting to seriousness. "You can't fight this battle alone. John has deep roots in this community, and going against him without understanding his strategies could lead to more harm than good, she warned. I'm talking about research. Influencers. The right people to empower your movement. Ethan's mind raced. The prospect of allies fired his imagination. This could be the turning point. But he also felt a hint of skepticism. Why should I trust you? Because I've seen the corruption, Amelia replied, her voice dropping to a whisper, almost conspiratorial. I've fought against it before, and I won. Stand by while John continues to exploit those who can't defend themselves. The crowd hung on every word, a palpable sense of possibility igniting the air. Ethan looked between Amelia and John, the stakes rapidly rising. If we're going to change things, we need to strike while the iron is hot, he said, his determination restored. John's face twisted in anger and fear. You're playing a dangerous game, kid. You think you can take me down? Watch your back, he spat, before striding off, his presence exiting like a thunderstorm retreating from clear skies. Ethan felt exhilarated yet apprehensive. The battle was far from over. We need a strategy, he said, gripping Gabriel's shoulder. And we need to build a coalition. Then let us get to work, Gabriel replied, a spark in his eyes. Together, they turned to face Amelia, ready for what lay ahead. But just as hope began to bloom, Ethan noticed a flicker of movement among the shadows at the back of the auditorium. Someone else was watching. Who were they, and what secrets would they bring to the unfolding drama? The journey was spiraling into an unpredictable direction, and Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that the real fight was only just beginning. The moment the last echo of John's footsteps faded, the auditorium buzzed with a nervous energy. Ethan's heart raced. He glanced at Gabriel, whose eyes searched the crowd, absorbing their hopeful expressions, but Ethan's focus shifted back to the flicker in the shadows. Something felt off, like an itch he couldn't scratch. Did you see that? Ethan whispered to Gabriel, nodding subtly in the direction of the movement. Gabriel squinted, his brow furrowing. What? I don't, Amelia interrupted, her demeanor a mix of urgency and calm. We don't have time for distractions. Ethan, you need to assemble a team. But what about, he started, hesitating. The intrigue gnawed at him, but the opportunity Amelia presented loomed larger. What do we do next? First, let us gather people who believe in your cause. She pressed forward, her heels echoing against the stage floor as she moved closer to him. Can you think of anyone who could help? Ethan's mind whirred. He thought of Clara, the local journalist with a reputation for unearthing corruption. Jake, the community organizer known for uniting voices. All were allies in the fight for change. I can reach out to them. Good. That's the first step, Amelia encouraged, her fervor lighting a fire in his chest. We'll also need a solid plan. Information is power. I can share some of my resources, but we need to act quickly. He nodded, adrenaline pulsing through him. Let us do it then. As they grouped, a shadowy figure approached the edge of the stage. Ethan squinted against the overhead lights. The figure stepped into view, an older gentleman with a weary expression and a worn leather briefcase that looked like it had stories of its own. Excuse me, he said, his voice gravelly yet steady, I couldn't help but overhear. Ethan felt a lump in his throat, an unsettling mix of excitement and fear. What do you mean? I'm Frank, the man said, glancing around as if wary of eavesdropping ears. I've been involved in community activism for decades. What you're starting, it's important. But you'll need to understand the history of this place. It's not all black and white. And you think you can help? Amelia stepped forward, her guard still up but her eyes intrigued. I can provide insights. Secrets, really. He lowered his voice and Ethan leaned in closer. There are forces at play that are deeper than you realize. Everyone you think is with you might not be. Trust is earned, not given. And John's web is much wider than just this community. Those words hung in the air like storm clouds. Ethan's gut twisted as he exchanged a look with Gabriel. What are you saying? The person watching from the shadows may not be just an audience member. They're probably a player in this game, and they could tip the scales. Frank's gaze darted back toward the back of the auditorium. Ethan's heart sank. What do we do about that? First, gather your allies. Then we confront the shadows, Frank said, determination backlighting his voice. But be careful who you trust. Friends can become foes in an instant. You need to be prepared for that. Ethan took a deep breath, the weight of Frank's ominous words settling on his shoulders. We already know that John is a threat. Now, there's someone else. Frank nodded, his expression grave. You're still in the game, but the rules are going to change. And when they do, you need to make sure you're on the right side. Ethan felt the chill of reality creeping in. As he looked out at the crowd once more, the urgency of their situation pressed in around him. Who else is watching us? He whispered to himself, grappling with the uncertainty that hung heavily in the air. This battle had barely begun. With shadows deepening and enemies lurking, Ethan realized that trust would be the ultimate weapon or the greatest weakness. Could he navigate these treacherous waters without losing everything? The stakes were higher than he ever imagined, and as he glanced back at Frank, he knew the true struggle was just around the corner. What lay ahead was a question of loyalty, courage, and the truth that was waiting to be uncovered. Ethan's mind was racing as he turned back to Gabriel and Amelia, their faces etched with the same mix of uncertainty and resolve he was feeling. Frank wasn't just a shadow, he was a potential ally, but his words had planted a seed of doubt. Could they trust him? Okay, let us focus, Ethan said, shaking off the disquiet. If we're going to assemble a team, we need to set a timeline. We can't waste precious hours sitting around. Gabriel nodded. Let us divide the tasks. I can go find Clara. She knows the community better than anyone. Great, Amelia said. I'll reach out to Jake. He's the one who can rally people. If we present a united front, it'll send a strong message. But what about the shadows? Ethan asked, his voice quiet but urgent. How do we address that? Stay vigilant, Frank interjected. Keep an eye out for anyone who seems out of place. The walls have ears, and we don't want to tip off whoever's watching. The three of them exchanged glances, a silent agreement forming in the air. They had to be sharp. Distrust was thick like fog, and Ethan could feel it stifling their excitement. I'll draft some ideas for the agenda we can present at the meeting, Ethan said, determined to turn their growing anxiety into something actionable. Let us meet back here in 2 hours, Gabriel suggested, and Ethan could see the spark of urgency igniting Gabriel's eyes. The boy was ready for this fight, just like Ethan wanted to be. As they moved toward the exits, Ethan felt a sense of purpose wash over him, only to be pulled back as Frank's voice echoed through the emptying auditorium. Ethan, Frank called. One more thing. Ethan turned to face him, his heart thumping. You need to find the truth before you can change it, Frank said softly, his expression somber. Sometimes, the truth is buried beneath layers of lies, and others will do anything to protect their secrets. What do you mean? Ethan pressed. Are you saying we should look for something specific? Frank hesitated, then pulled a scrap of paper from his briefcase and handed it to him. Keep this close. It might lead you to the truth, but be careful. The deeper you dig, the more dangerous it gets. Ethan took the paper, sensing an undercurrent of urgency in Frank's tone. As he glanced down at the note, the thrill of the unknown shot through him. What was he about to uncover? Stay safe, Frank warned, watching Ethan closely. And remember, trust your instincts. Ethan nodded slowly, uncertainty mixing with determination. He turned and hurried to catch up with Gabriel and Amelia. The trajectory of their mission felt different now, more urgent, more dire. He tucked the note safely in his pocket, heart racing at the possibilities that lay ahead. As he stepped out into the fresh night air, his pulse crackled with the weight of the moment. The shadows felt closer now, lurking behind every corner, whispering secrets that wanted to remain buried. What truth awaited him? Was it something that could unite his cause or tear it apart? With every step forward, he felt the stakes rise higher. He was no longer just fighting for change, but for the integrity of the very truth that fueled his mission. Could he uncover what lay hidden before it was too late? The real battle was just beginning, and the cost of failure had never felt so heavy. Under the dim glow of streetlights and fluttering banners, Ethan felt the gravity of his mission settle on his shoulders. The echoes of the gala still filled his mind, the applause, the shock, and the new embers of hope igniting within the community he had come to love. It was exhilarating and terrifying at once. This was the definitive moment where he could choose to forge a path toward a better future, not just for himself, but for countless others fighting against the odds. As he drove back home with Gabriel by his side, hands pressed tightly against the steering wheel, Ethan's heart swelled with a mix of fear and determination. He glanced sideways, catching Gabriel's confident smile. "It's just the beginning, Ethan. You've started a movement," Gabriel said, his voice unwavering. Those words struck deep, wrapping around Ethan's heart like a warm embrace. Hours later, in the secrecy of his bedroom, Ethan unfolded the crumpled note Frank had given him. The scrawl contained names, addresses, whispers of connections buried deep in the community's history. The kind of secrets that could shake foundations and bring truths to light. He knew each name bore not just weight but stories yearning to be told. As dawn broke, painting the world in strokes of gold, Ethan met with Gabriel and Amelia in the community center. The atmosphere buzzed with anticipation. "This is where change starts," he asserted, with a blend of steel-strong resolve and genuine care. "We gather these stories, expose the truth, and build a framework for real hope." Amelia nodded, already pulling strings in her mind. "I can reach out to those who might have the resources we need: press members, influencers who care about social reform. We need to spotlight these stories." The team moved quickly, fueled by visions of a transformed community. Clara, the journalist, joined them with enthusiasm, and Jake offered his expertise in grassroots movements. Each addition felt like another piece fitting into a grand puzzle, assembling a force that could challenge John's oppressive shadows. Ethan realized he wasn't just bringing change to these families, he was rediscovering himself alongside them. Each story shared in meetings became a lifeline drawn through his own existence, a thread connecting him to something greater than wealth or status. Weeks melted into a whirlwind of activity. Ethan, Gabriel, Amelia, and their team stood proud at the forefront of a burgeoning movement. News articles flooded the town, exposing injustices, and rallying more to their side. They organized food drives and fundraisers, lifting the community's hopes and spirits. Ethan finally understood the truth of real wealth. It was the laughter in unity, the tears in shared struggles, a force that compelled people to stand together. And then it happened one evening. An unexpected surge of emotion struck. Ethan was seated in the very community center that had become a sanctuary for so many. He listened to mothers speak of their trials and triumphs, children sharing dreams with fire in their eyes. It was transformative. Gone was the timid boy in a mansion. He was becoming a man defined by purpose, filled with love for humanity. But shadows lingered. John's influence remained like a shroud. As support started to swell, so did John's threats. One evening, amidst preparations for a major rally to culminate their journey, John confronted him head-on. "You think you can dismantle everything I built, Ethan?" His voice vibrated with the weight of authority, an icy shadow lingering like a storm cloud. Ethan took a moment, breathing through the anger and fear. "I'm not tearing anything down, I'm building something new," he declared with unwavering strength. "This community deserves better. And I won't back down." The defiance that surged in him was no longer rooted in rebellion but in conviction. The rally unfolded like a symphony, voices rising, spreading the message of hope, partnership, and authentic change. Families gathered, hearts beating in unison. It was there, amid the swell of community, that Ethan realized the shadows had no real power. The bonds forged in trust and unity outshined any darkness that could threaten them. As the sun dipped below the horizon, illuminating the sky in brilliant hues, Ethan looked out at the faces. His heart felt light, filled with profound love and responsibility. He was embraced not only by a community but by a truth echoing in every voice. Everyone deserved to be seen, to have their stories told. In that moment, he understood that the journey had woven them all together, restoring relationships once fractured and guiding him toward his own identity. The applause surged, lifting him higher than he ever thought possible. He realized each story was a promise, every heartbeat a testament to resilience. Eventually, John faded into the background as those who once feared him now stood resolute beside Ethan, and as the night deepened, he could feel the shadows retreat, replaced by vibrant possibilities stretching into the future. This was just the beginning. Now it's your turn. You need to subscribe now to the channel so you don't miss our next inspiring stories that will uplift and empower you. Leave a like right now to show your support and help feed the algorithm. Every single click makes a difference. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this powerful ending, and share this video immediately with at least 5 friends who need to witness this incredible transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to be part of this extraordinary community. Let's stand together.